Welcome to U.S. Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Youngkin administration says it's fixing issue that improperly removed some voters from the rolls. Environmentalists suffer another setback in fight to shutter California's last nuclear power plant. New Mexico police officer charged for shooting black nurse. U.S. Deputy Interior Secretary Tommy Boudreaux to step down. Florida sues White House over funding tied to new state labor law. Youngkin administration says it's fixing issue that improperly removed some voters from the rolls. The Toronto Star. The administration of Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin has confirmed that an issue that misclassified probation violations as felonies has led to an unknown number of eligible Virginians being removed from the voter rolls. The Virginia Department of Elections is working with the Virginia State Police to identify affected voters and reinstate their registration. The issue was discovered as part of the routine process of maintaining an up-to-date voter list. Environmentalists suffer another setback in fight to shutter California's last nuclear power plant. The Toronto Star. New Mexico police officer charged for shooting black nurse. Reuters. A police officer in New Mexico has been charged with voluntary manslaughter in the shooting death of a black nurse last year. Officer Brad Lunsford allegedly shot Presley Ease in the back of the head during a struggle at a gas station. The incident occurred after Ease was stopped by police for shoplifting a beer. The state attorney general called the killing an unjustifiable use of force and criticized the police tactics. Lunsford's lawyer claimed that Ease had tried to take an officer's handgun and taser during the struggle. U.S. Deputy Interior Secretary Tommy Boudreaux to step down. Reuters. U.S. Deputy Interior Secretary Tommy Boudreaux is stepping down from his role at the end of October. The reason for his departure and how the vacancy will be filled have not been disclosed. Boudreaux previously signed the final approval for a scaled-back version of ConocoPhillips' $7 billion Willow project in Alaska, which drew criticism from environmental activists. He has been criticized for his close ties to the fossil fuel industry, which has raised concerns about his ability to address climate change. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland described Boudreaux as a valued counselor and friend. Florida sues White House over funding tied to new state labor law. Reuters. Florida has filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration, claiming that it is threatening to withhold over $800 million in transportation infrastructure funding due to a new state law that some public sector unions consider anti-labor. The law, Senate Bill 256, prevents unions representing transportation workers, teachers, and other public sector employees from deducting dues from paychecks and instead requires employees to pay dues directly to their unions. The law also includes provisions that require employees to sign authorization forms for union representation and requires unions seeking certification as bargaining agents to show that at least 60% of eligible employees are paying dues. Florida argues that the Biden administration is conditioning transportation funding on the state's agreement not to enforce provisions that the Secretary of Labor believes undermine collective bargaining. The state believes that the Department of Labor's ultimatum is unconstitutional and is seeking to have it declared as such. Senate Republicans question Oregon judicial nominees' support for diversity. Reuters. Republicans in the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee have attacked President Joe Biden's nominee for federal district court judge in Oregon, Mustafa Kasabai, over his promotion of diversity and inclusion in the courts and legal profession. Kasabai, a Muslim American, would be the third Muslim American federal district court judge if confirmed. Republicans focused on his speeches and writings on topics such as Black Lives Matter, racial diversity, and the use of preferred pronouns in court, arguing that he takes radical positions. Democrats defended Kasabai, with Senator Cory Booker saying there was an urgency to his outspokenness on diversity. U.S. sends confiscated ammunition to Ukraine. Telegraph. The U.S. has sent over 1 million rounds of ammunition seized from Iran to Ukraine, marking the first time that Washington has transferred weapons confiscated from another country to Ukraine since Russia's invasion in 2014. The move comes shortly after Congress removed support for Ukraine from a funding deal. Iran has been supplying Russia with drones, which have been used against targets in Ukraine. The U.S. Navy has been intercepting fishing vessels suspected of carrying Iranian weapons to Yemen for several years. The ammunition sent to Ukraine works with the Soviet-era Kalashnikov assault rifles still used by many Ukrainian military units. President Joe Biden had asked for $24 billion in funding for Ukraine, but Congress refused to back even a reduced package of $6 billion. EV maker Rivian sees higher quarterly revenue. Reuters. Rivian Automotive, an electric vehicle maker backed by Amazon, has forecasted that its quarterly revenues will increase due to a rise in deliveries of its pickup trucks and SUVs. The company has been ramping up production to meet high demand for its vehicles and recently exceeded delivery expectations for the third quarter. Rivian, like other EV manufacturers, has been investing heavily to keep up with Tesla and the growing market for electric vehicles. The company expects its revenue for the third quarter to be between $1.29 billion and $1.33 billion, compared to $540 million the previous year. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the sixth dimension, bringing you the latest news from across the multiverse. Today, we have a diverse range of stories to discuss, from voting rights issues in Virginia to environmental setbacks in California, and even a police shooting case in New Mexico. But don't worry, I will make sure to lighten the mood with some witty commentary. So, let's dive in. First up, we have the Youngkin administration in Virginia admitting to an issue that led to eligible voters being removed from the rolls. Well, it seems someone didn't properly read the fine print. But fear not, folks, they are working to fix the problem and reinstate those affected. It's like that saying, oops, we made a mistake, let's try not to do it again. Hopefully, they'll get it right this time. Next, we have environmentalists facing another setback in their fight to shut down California's last nuclear power plant. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission rejected their request, citing compliance with safety standards. It's a tough battle, folks, like trying to convince a superhero to give up their cape. But hey, at least they are reviewing the request. Maybe they'll find a compromise that keeps everyone happy, or at least somewhat content. Moving on to New Mexico, where a police officer has been charged with voluntary manslaughter in the shooting death of a black nurse. This is a tragic incident that highlights the need for better police training and accountability. It's like a bad movie plot where the hero becomes the villain. Let's hope justice prevails and we can prevent such senseless acts of violence in the future. In other news, U.S. Deputy Interior Secretary Tommy Boudreaux is stepping down. Now, I don't know about you, but I always find it suspicious when someone leaves their job without giving a reason. Is it a secret mission? A midlife crisis? Or maybe they just need a break from the chaos of the world. Either way, it's a loss for the Interior Department, but let's hope his replacement brings a fresh perspective and a passion for protecting our environment. Florida, always keeping things interesting. The state is suing the White House over funding tied to a new labor law. It's like a high-stakes game of poker, with millions of dollars on the line. Florida argues that the funding should not be conditioned on their agreement to certain provisions. Well, let's see how this hand plays out. Will they fold, call, or go all in? Only time will tell. Now, let's talk about the Senate Republicans questioning Oregon judicial nominee Mustafa Kasabay's support for diversity. Oh, those Republicans, always stirring the pot. They seem to have a knack for picking fights over issues that shouldn't be controversial. Diversity and inclusion should be celebrated, not questioned. Let's hope Mr. Kasabay's qualifications and commitment to justice outweigh these baseless attacks. Lastly, we have the U.S. sending confiscated ammunition to Ukraine. It's like a game of international hot potato, with the U.S. trying to get rid of seized ammunition and Ukraine in need of firepower. This move comes at a time when Congress has reduced funding for Ukraine, so it's a bit of a mixed message. But hey, at least they are taking action to support Ukraine in their struggle against Russian aggression. And there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of the latest news. Remember, these stories are just the tip of the iceberg, and there's always more to discuss and explore. So, what are your thoughts, my fellow observers? Do you have any burning questions or insightful comments? Let's open the floor and see what's on your mind. What say you? Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.